If you're running a software development agency, it shouldn't be too hard to grow. Welcome to ManagedCoder Podcast. Tune in every week to find out how to grow your software development agency and help you to solve your day-to-day problems. With 20 plus years experience running an agency, please welcome your host, Shahed Islam.
Hi, Andy. Welcome to our podcast. Can you introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks for having me. For I guess a little bit about me. My name is Andy Cabasso, and I'm a founder at Postaga, which is a software platform and service that help with cold email outreach for a variety of use cases for things like sales lead generation, as well as outreach for PR, link building, and things like that.
And I was talking to you yesterday, and you mentioned that you actually used to run an agency before, right?
Yep. So before I started Postaga, I started, grew, and then sold a digital agency, and we were focused specifically on the legal vertical, so doing web design and marketing services for law firms.
A lot of our audience are actually on your position, which you started 5 years or 6 years ago. So let me start with, I do talk to a lot of agency owners, especially those who are growing. And one of the things when I ask them, they don't have any outbound campaign. They are all getting referral or pretty much inbound sometimes through different ways. Why outbound is important, especially, if you haven't started outbound?
So outbound is important because, kind of like you mentioned, like if people are getting their leads from referrals, it can be maybe somewhat inconsistent. And you have to work your sources, like your people who are sending you business, you have to kind of keep in touch with them and keep making sure that that the people that could be sending you business are reminded about you, and that you're gonna be top of mind, that if they know someone, if there's an opportunity, they could send them your way. And it can be irregular. So, but outbound can be much more predictable, reliable, and consistent. If you get to a point where you know that if I send this many outbound emails, I can reliably get this many meetings, and of this many meetings, this many clients will sign, and it could be much more predictable and also more scalable, because referrals and word of mouth are going to come from your existing clients, and there are a finite number of them. But by doing something like outbound as part of a strategy for your marketing, there can be greater opportunities. And there are, I think some concerns that people can have about outbound is they may have tried it once and it didn't work for them. Then it could just be that you didn't work with a large enough sample size as your audience, or it could be that there are a few different particular things that could have been maybe done poorly that you didn't know if it was the first time you've ever done this before. But I know that people can get discouraged if they've tried it in the past. But there are tips I have in terms of what you could be doing better if you're new to doing cold outreach.
One thing I have noticed, Andy, that a lot of people come to me to ask for advice, and they do realize it that when their pipeline is empty, because they don't control inbound most of the time. They do certain extent, but most of the time you don't know what is going on in the industry. And especially let's say summertime or December month, your pipeline is almost empty, and now you start doing outbound. So my next question is that if I have never done an outbound, or just like you said it, I did a small sample, what are my 3 steps? What do you suggest to any CEO, what step they should take to do an outbound campaign successfully?
So I guess first grab a pen and paper, because I've got a lot of things.
Outbound with spamming people, right? When
Sure.
they are outbound, they think that I'm going to send 50,000 or 1 million email. No, it's not that, right?
No, absolutely not. Yeah, if you send if you try and send 50,000, a million emails, however many, most of them are probably not going to be relevant to the people that you're reaching out to. They're going to mark you as spam, and then you've wasted a lot of time and effort, and you've upset a lot of people, and you're going to have nothing to show for it. But doing outbound the right way involves, I guess, a few different things. In terms of setup, the first thing to do is one thing that I see that a mistake that people make often is if they're trying outbound, they're going to try like using their own email address and sending outbound emails from their email to a group of people, or they might try using a mail merge or something like that, or MailChimp or an email marketing software that they already have that isn't really built for outbound. There are outbound tools and software out there. And I strongly recommend using one of them rather than your own email from your own inbox, or using a mail merge, or using an email marketing software like a MailChimp or something like that, because they're just not built for that, and they will ban you because it's against their terms of service to use them for outbound. But first thing I would do is, if I'm starting from scratch today, I would buy a new domain name, in particular one that sounds or looks similar to my domain. Like if I have mywebsite.com, I would get mywebsite.net, because as a best practice, the worst case scenario is you've sent a bunch of outbound cold emails and you are getting a lot of either bounce backs because you didn't verify the email addresses, or you're getting marked as junk, and then it's going to tank your email's deliverability. And if it hurts the email deliverability for that domain, if you were using your regular work emails are going to start ending up in people's spam folders, and that's going to be bad for your day-to-day business. So what I would do is I would set up another domain and then set up email addresses at that domain that would be specifically dedicated to used for outreach. Then, as a practical matter, a part of the process we recommend is something called email warm-up, which there are tools that help with this as well. But basically, it slowly sends out a few emails a day and increases that over a period of a few weeks. And this process called email warm-up basically helps ensure you get good deliverability, so your emails reach people's inboxes and don't go to their spam folders. Then once you have this done, you're ready to send out the emails. Then at that point, I'd make sure that you have a good list. And this is where like the prospecting comes into play, making sure that you are finding contacts that are relevant to whatever it is your offer is, your services are. There are plenty of different ways to do prospecting, from looking up manually people on LinkedIn and building a list, or scraping databases, or using like lead list databases or software, things like that. But the more curated you are and the more relevant these contacts are to whatever your offer is, the better results you're going to have. One thing also to mention here is, for all of the contacts that you find that you want to reach out to, it's important to verify their email addresses. There are pieces of tools that help with this as well. But basically making sure that when you email these people, it'll reach inboxes and it won't bounce. Some databases that give you like contact information may be outdated, like the person may not work at that company anymore. And if you email that address, it'll bounce, and too many bounced emails are bad. So now let's say we've built our list, we've set up our emails. Now we need to email these people. My biggest tip here is, don't be too wordy. The goal of your outbound emails are not to sell people on the first email. It's to start a conversation, to not like bombard them with a wall of text, because they have no idea who you are, and no amount of text touting how great you are and what services you provide are going to make people interested. But if you have a simple question, which is like let's say you're offering, I don't know, like software agency services, and your pitch is, hey, I saw that your pet e-commerce brand uses something or whatever technology on your site. Are you looking to build an app or something for this, whatever? I don't know, something. But if your ask of them is simple and tailored to and relevant to what they do, you're going to be much better off. And your like pitch doesn't need to be paragraphs and paragraphs. It can be a few sentences. If they reply, well, maybe I don't know who you are, but what do you do that's relevant to our business? Then you can, move the conversation forward, ultimately with the goal of getting someone on a phone call to give them a proposal, sell them, whatever. But the goal of your cold emails shouldn't be to sell them. Just keeping in mind the goal is to start a conversation.
That's very good. Very good. I mean, a lot of people forget to follow these steps and they always complain. Now, let's go to the next step. Some of the people I talk to, and what I realized that they actually started it, but they're not getting any success. That's very common. You've been building a product for outbound email, and super impressive the product I saw. So, what are the areas you see that who are more successful, and what is the reason? One quote I want to mention here, like I was talking to someone else here, that a lot of people want to build their muscle and they go to gym once a month and they expect result will happen. Do you see similar scenario? But what else do you see, that what are the problem those people who are not getting success, they've been doing outbound email?
So I guess experience and time are probably the things that stand out to me the most. And by that, I just mean the people who I've seen have the most success are the ones who've been doing it longer, who've been iterating, who have been testing things out. I guarantee you, the first outreach campaign that you do will not give you great results, and you're going to probably be discouraged. But it's a learning experience. And if you iterate from that, if you try out different copy, if you build larger lists than, like, let's say like a larger list than a few dozen or 100 people or something like that, outreach can be like a numbers game. And also the more data that you have about like what are my reply rates to these emails, and if you've tried different variations on the emails and seeing how those go as far as reply rates and things like that, and trying different segments of audiences and like the list that you're building, you're going to see differences, and you can kind of go from there and make improvements. So I'd say like really the biggest difference I see is that the people who have the most success are testing things out and iterating and constantly looking to improve, rather than trying one thing and then hoping like that it improves and just gets better on its own, which it won't necessarily.
So it does sound like, from agency perspective, that even though we provide solution for our client, but sometimes with outbound email, they think it's a software, I buy it and let it run, I'll get result. It doesn't sound like that at all.
Well, yeah, I think the thing is, like, if this is your like first time doing outbound, you may do some research and you may see like, all right, let me look up some email templates or ideas, or read some articles about cold emailing. And like, that's a good place to absolutely start. And I would take everything with a grain of salt and test things out for yourself and evaluate the results, see how they do, make different tests and see how things compare, and go off of the data. And that, I think, is going to give you the best results, really.
So you need to have dedicated people doing this job every day to get best result.
Yeah. So I will say that like doing outbound and outreach is a job. And one of the things I've seen that the businesses that are like least successful with this are the ones that kind of try and like dip their toe in the water and say like, and like, if it's usually in the case, it's like a CEO or a C-level person who is like, we haven't really done outbound before. Let's give it a try and let's and it's a very like half-hearted single sort of effort into it, and then it doesn't end up being successful, and then they give up on it and they say, well, Outbound doesn't work for me. And it maybe didn't work for you, but maybe there was some particular reason that it didn't work for you. And like, yeah, we need to make changes, try again, and see how we can kind of improve from there. But it definitely takes dedication to be able to get to see good results from it.
So yesterday, Microsoft released their sales tool using ChatGPT. I was watching it, and I mean, it looks like this is a trend will continue, right? OpenAI, and I'm sure other AI tool come in, which will give us a great tool which we can connect with your tool or HubSpot or Salesforce. Everybody will integrate it. How do you see that perspective, that content now we can generate using ChatGPT? All of my outbound, people, all 4 or 5 of them, actually, most of their outbound email, they are writing template. They used to hire someone and do it for 50 people. Now for 5 people, they are creating a content and sending it. Do you see that this trend will continue, and how do you see this in coming weeks and months?
I see ChatGPT as just another tool in the arsenal of any marketer or salesperson or someone who's looking to do outbound. It's only going to be as good as those of us who can like utilize it effectively. It's early stages, and so I'm kind of cautiously curious to see how it's going to go. Like I've tinkered with it to see like try and generate for me a cold email, and it wasn't the best. But like as far as like things where I see that it might be most interesting and relevant are in personalization, in that the most effective cold emails have deeper personalization to them. They're more relevant to the recipient. And if you have an AI tool that can effectively like see that like, okay, my contact is at this company, it figures out like some I don't know, some sort of formula or something like that to make their contents more relevant to that audience, I think can be more effective. To date, I've seen like, GPT-3, I've seen lots of tools use GPT-3 for things like personalization. And to be honest, like being on the receiving end of a lot of emails that I'm like very clearly had GPT-3 in them, like they're kind of bad. Like it doesn't like it looks like it was like built by a robot, and it's not all that effective, and it's like usually like off-putting. But with ChatGPT, I'm curious to see how it further develops. It's going to get better, and it kind of remains to be seen. And it can definitely be helpful for people. But I will say that I think a lot of us have been on the receiving end of plenty of cold emails over the years, and you can like recognize them right away. And a lot of them are bad. Dear sir, are you interested in outsourcing your software? We charge X dollars an hour, and we can do iPhone development, Android development, etc. And like listing things, and like I get that a lot, and it's still very common, and it's frustrating to get that kind of stuff. But like the most effective cold emails are the ones that are personalized, that are different, that stand out, and have something compelling and relevant for the recipient. And if ChatGPT could help make that easier, then it'll be great. But it just depends how people are able to use it in the future, I think.
Thank you, Andy. Can you tell us how anybody wants to ask you a question? What is the best way to contact you, and maybe a little bit more about your product, what people can get the product you are offering?
Sure. So, if you want to find me online, I'm pretty easy. My name's Andy Cabasso, and I'm the founder at Postaga. That's Postaga. managedcoder.com. We make a platform that helps with cold email outreach. And if you want to try it out, I can give you a coupon code, podcast50 will give you 50% off for 3 months if you want to check it out. And I'm pretty easy to find online. I'm Andy Cabasso on Twitter, and Andrew Cabasso on LinkedIn. So yeah, get in touch. Happy to talk.
Thank you, Andy. Very nice talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from us, you can follow us on Twitter at ManagedCoder or visit our website at ManagedCoder.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.